Hello friends and welcome to my little studio. Today I want to talk about my favorite art supplies from 2024 since the year is coming to an end, and this will be like old but gold art tools, but also new art tools that I really enjoyed using during this 2024 year. These were a big discovery for me this year since I was searching for very battery color pencils, and an artist suggested to use this Supracolor Soft from Caran d'Ache. This is a series that it's really nice to use after you finished painting and you want to add details and texture, but overall you want to correct things and add a layer of color without seeing too much texture, too much like brush strokes. And I think these are the creamiest and butteriest color pencils I've ever tried in my life. And I have different brands like Holbeins and Polychromos and Prismacolor, but none of these are so buttery. I usually use this very light blue for lights and sometimes the yellowish, but also the rose color. And in general, I own basically all the pastel shades from this Supracolor series of color pencils. As for the sketching, I still sketch with this very old Colliera's Prismacolor. These are sold like in sets of 12 or 24 colors, so you can't find them like sold by single item. And I would love them to be sold like by themselves, because I usually use these three colors, which are vermilion, rose, and this is carmine red. This is very short, so I use this like pencil holder, I don't know how to call it. And I lately use this rose color, which adds a very beautiful cool color under the painting. And overall, if you use these color pencils, they will add like a soft color underneath your paintings. If you want like a more warm color, you should use the vermilion one, and if you want to have like cooler undertones, you should use the rose and the carmine red. I love them better than the regular graphite since they don't smudge on the paper, and even if they smudge sometimes when I do like 3 or 4 layers of color pencil, it's like creating a color base for your painting, so it's still very nice and it's not like that gray shade of the graphite, you know. So yeah, these are very old and gold for me. Let's sip some tea till it's warm. And to the next one, let's see what I've got in here. Talking about the line art, I don't have a standard process for it, but sometimes I would use inks or color pencils or just nothing. But when I do use inks, I choose between two tools, in particular the fountain pen, and I have this Kaweco, I think it's called Sport because it's very little, and I usually use it with the cap on top because otherwise it would be too short for me to draw and to do the line art. What I don't like about this in particular is that all the lines are the same, so there's no variation inside. But anyway, I still use it, and I use it in my sketchbook, or I just use it to write in my planners. So I think it's very practical overall, and this works with these ink cartridges. I bought them from Kaweco too. They are not so expensive, I think, and I don't use it so much, so I don't use a lot of cartridges. But if you use the ink a lot, I suggest you to buy like an ink converter, I think it's called, so that you can pump the ink from the ink bottle. Anyway, when I want my lines to be both thick and thin lines, so when I want to have some variation, I use the nibs with the nib holder. I don't have a favorite brand. I've used the Deleter one for a while, and now I switched to another brand, which is a German brand. Anyway, when you press the nib on the paper, you'll get a thicker line, and when you like press it very little, then you'll get a thin line. So it depends on the hand pressure basically. And when I use these nibs, I have to use liquid ink. And my favorite liquid inks are these ones. All my liquid inks are the same brand, which is Rohrer and Klingner. And here you can see an illustration from Aikala because I bought this set from her shop. She sells a few sets from Rohrer and Klingner. So this is the bottle, and this is very liquidy, so it's more like liquid watercolor in my opinion. But if you want a thicker ink, I have this roller and cleaner antique touche. So let me take it off the box. So this is very nice. It's more like it's bigger and it's vintage. I think this label is more on the vintage side, and the liquid inside is denser. And basically I dilute it with water because I still want the ink to be a bit watery, especially because I paint with it. So when I do like line art, I may use it directly from the bottle, but for the painting purpose, I water down with water. This scrap rot in particular, it's a very nice red. It's on the cooler side, and I don't know, it's very vibrant, but not in an unpleasant way. It's like, I don't know, a bit vintage. This is like the vibe of these bottles. These are also very hard to find. I bought them in a German store, online store of course, while this one you can find them both on Ikala shops, but I think in a lot of other shops. Surprisingly, I won't talk about watercolors this year because I haven't used them a lot during the year, and also I still use the same brands as I talked about in the previous videos. So yeah, I've explored new media this year and I want to talk about this new media, and in particular gouache. And as for the gouache, I've tried out these Holbein gouaches, which are artist gouaches, like standard gouaches, not acrylic gouache, because I do have some tubes of acrylic gouache, but I don't like it so much and I still have to get used to it. While this gouache is very similar to watercolor, it's a bit like opaque and it's a bit more dense, but otherwise it's a very similar process. And of course, I didn't try out other brands like Daniel Smith gouache or Winsor Newton or Schminke gouaches, which I think and I've heard that are very good as well. But I can suggest you this brand because I've used it and I like it very much. I may be using other brands this new year in 2025, and by the end of the year I may talk about other brands too. But I think Holbein in general does the most amazing quality wise products. Like I also use the watercolors, which are very good, and in general all artists talk good about Holbein all the time. So this is my Holbein collection, and I think that I've gathered a pretty good amount of tubes, so I may be doing a lot of artworks with gouache or just painting my sketchbook, I don't know. Talking about gouache, I do have a new tool too. I've talked about it in the latest video on my channel, so it's pretty new, but I've enjoyed it so much that I had to introduce it in this list because I think it's the most practical tool you can use in your sketchbook. And these are the acrylic markers. This is the RTX brand, but I suggest to explore new brands too, because why not? And I think the concept is very good for artists, because usually when you paint in your sketchbook, you don't have like the energy to open like tubes and to take some ceramic palettes and water and brushes and do the whole process just for your sketchbook. You want to have something that it's pretty quick and you don't have to think too much about it. So I think this solution, if you love gouache and if you love the feeling of the gouache and the texture, this is a pretty amazing tool because it's very fast. You have to shake it and just go on the paper. And also the brush nib, it's very flexible, it's very nice, it's like a synthetic brush. It acts very well, and overall I'm so happy I've discovered this tool because from now on I'll use it a lot in my sketchbook. I don't want to have a mess on my desk when I'm just have some sketchbook time. Of course, when I do larger paintings or illustrations that I do for work or other things, of course I will still use regular gouache and watercolor and brushes because I have like a wider color selection. I didn't love all the colors from this selection in particular, but rather than this, I think they're amazing for sketchbooks, for all artists that love sketchbook painting. I usually don't love using tubes because I think I waste a lot of color, and this is the reason why I got this palette from Mielo, which is an empty palette for pouring the tube color, and this is a 48 empty spaces. I put all my Albane watercolors inside. They're not 48, of course, but I may buy some other colors in the next future. And yeah, it's plastic, but it's a very sturdy plastic, and it's also very like soft, and I think the colors have a nice grip on it. They don't fall out, and overall this is my solution for tubes because I still don't like putting them in the godet, like in the empty little pans, because sometimes the color is not the same like in the tube, like it would separate, or I don't know, strange things happen when I pour the color in the pan. So this solution, I think it's better. I just pour some color from the tube and let it dry, and then close the palette and use it when I need to use it. And I take the color of the brush directly from this quantity I have on my palette, and when it's empty, of course, I will replace them. Be aware that this is very big, you know, it's bigger than my head, and if you have a very little desk, you may have some troubles putting it on the table because it would occupy a lot of space, and yeah, you may not want this. Now let's talk about sketchbooks, and my favorite, absolute favorite sketchbook is this Strathmore Mixed Media with soft cover where you can put a lot of stickers. I love this idea. And I love the paper because even if it's thin, it's not so like watercolor approved, but it still takes on wet media as well as dry media. And I like the texture of the paper because it's very soft, and at the end the paintings look very good on it. It's like hot pressed paper, and I love it very much. I love the colors, I love everything about this sketchbook. I finished it like a few months ago, maybe more than that, and I'm using this handmade sketchbook that one of my friends on Instagram gave to me. I really like it because it has different paper inside, like sketching paper and also watercolor paper, so I can do a lot of things inside, but I can't wait to finish it because I want to have like this format for the sketchbook, a bigger one, because this is like on the A5 size and this is like on the A4 size. And I think I'll get back to one of these sketchbooks, or I may want to try the Stillman and Burn, I think it's called. Overall, if you're searching for a sketchbook, I really suggest you this one because it's great for a lot of things, and you don't have to worry about bleeding, even if it still buckles a little bit, but I think as a sketchbook you don't need to worry about that. Now let's talk about the books, and I have 3 books in particular that I want to suggest you because these were my favorite this year, and this one in particular is amazing. This is the storyboard from Kiki Delivery Service, so a Ghibli movie, and inside, are you ready? There are a lot of drawings. This is the storyboard made with like graphite, and these are all original drawings from Miyazaki, and of course all these words are in Japanese. I don't know Japanese, but you can learn a lot from these drawings because there are a lot of tips on composition and character pose, so a lot about drawing. If you wanted to improve drawing and you don't know where to start and you want to get better at poses and characters and scenes in general, and you love Ghibli movies, of course, then get this. Here is my corner for Miyazaki. In the art book category, I have one in particular that I really love, and this is Hideaways by Uraville. I do have also the first volume, but I love this even more because inside there's so much more in terms of tutorials and tips, especially about how to paint with watercolors and how to choose colors and mix them, and as well as artworks and insights. So much beautiful artworks. And overall, I think this is a more complete version of the first art book, even if I do love a lot the first art book, and I still flip through it, and I'm enjoying these two art books in particular because I think mainly because they're about watercolors, and you can find a lot of art books about watercolors in general, so these are very precious to me. And yeah. Last but not least, this is a very precious book because it gives you so much. This is volume 2 from Drawn to Life. I would suggest you to get the first volume. I have it on my Kindle, this is why I don't show it to you. But I also have, and I'm still reading this Drawn to Life number 2. This is like a collection of lectures from this Disney animator Walt Stanchfield, who taught artists like Tim Burton and Glenn Keane. So inside you're going to find a lot of drawing tips, especially on poses and characters, how to bring characters to life, how to make them feel and act naturally. And there's also a lot of exercises and corrections, and I think it's very useful because you can see what students draw. Like for example, he gives a prompt to the students to draw, and then he corrects and give like some tips, and all these things are written inside, and you can see the drawings and the corrections and how characters come to life with like having a different approach and moving things around. So I think you'll have a lot to learn from this animator. He wrote these two books, and I think these are very precious, and they have such a enormous value to me, and I think to a lot of artists in the world. And I suggest you to get the volume 1, and I think that could be enough. This tea is basically cold, so this means that I've talked for a lot of time. I hope you've enjoyed this video and that you've discovered some new art tools to add to your collection. Let me know in the comments which art tool is your favorite one for 2024, if you can choose just one art tool. And yeah, thank you for watching this video and for being part of my community, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!